Hi, it's Graham. Welcome back. This podcast is all about celebrating creative people doing positive things in Wolverhampton, and our guest today certainly ticks those boxes. In this episode, I talked to Christiane Jenkins about growing up in a creative family and really being part of the art scene at the time, and then her life coming full circle to work at Suit with individuals in recovery from addiction, helping them find their creative voices. I began by asking her where it all started.
Arts and creativity is in my DNA. So both my parents were artists. I grew up in an incredibly creative, unorthodox, very liberal environment. Our house was full of art history books, slides, paintings, collections, and art collections that they'd built. As I got older, I think I've had quite a colourful path in my life, and when you're younger you don't really appreciate what you've got around you. I moved away when I was 18, 19, moved away for a couple of years, came back, settled, ended up having a job in retail for years, had a lot of struggles, but then as I got older, my creativity seemed to kind of just bubble up to the surface, and I started to understand this incredible upbringing and opportunity that had been there all my life. It was really when I started to volunteer for Suits, for Service User Involvement Team, back in 2017, that the real creative pathway opened up in front of me, and all the jigsaw pieces actually started to everything fell into place for me. When I started to find my authentic self, I would have been about a year in recovery when I started volunteering for Suit. And then things, like I say, everything started to be pieced together. Yeah.
So those foundations were there right from a very early age, but it took a little bit of time for you to find it.
It really did. And I think growing up in that environment, my mum and dad owned a gallery when I was very little. So we're going back 1980 to 82, 83. And that was in Techno Village, and that was the Techno Gallery. I grew up there, as I say, very little, but kind of almost like I understood what it was all about. Like I say, it's in my DNA. So I would actually be there at private views. I would be meeting artists. And again, through working through Suit, I realised that a lot of things for me had come full circle. So when my parents had the gallery, they were championing marginalised groups. They championed the Black Arts movement. My dad worked closely with Silbert Bolton before he was recognised up at Wolverhampton Art Gallery, and also with Polish community artists like Mariusz Duchek. And what they wanted to do was offer up community space for people that were unemployed, for example. They didn't want them to have to go through the Arts Council loopholes and all of these difficulties and barriers.
So on a personal level, what inspires you to create for yourself?
I've kind of learned that creativity is a process that happens in my brain, and it can sit very dormant. And the process is now that I will be thinking in detail about something kind of for weeks. And then it will feel like a bottle of pop exploding. It will have to go off. It works like that, and I know when an idea is going to develop.
We went on to talk about a particular idea Christiane had for a painting and how she'd booked some time off to work on it.
I booked a little week of annual leave, and it was for this sole intention of, right, I really want to do this painting. And the painting in my head looked a certain way, and it had all these finer details, and it was about belonging, and it was about places, and it was about traditions and the land and my experiences. And in my head, it was this huge, amazing thing. And then when I got down to it, I found it the most stressful painting, and I spent a week procrastinating, and I ended up doing a bunch of other stuff and having lots of cat naps and just didn't produce anything. But again, that's okay. I tend not to, like I said, I'd love to have painting time, but then when I look at the difference that I make in my job role now, and the inspiration, and when I see others create, that is so powerful.
Okay.
And I've just learned not to rush through things. It's really, really easy to just kind of do something and then you look at it and it's just not what you thought it was going to be, or you're not satisfied. But other people can come along with a different perspective and go, oh my God, that's brilliant. But for me, the whole side of painting, it really is something that gives me joy.
Okay.
I'd love nothing more than to have a brightly lit studio in the middle of nowhere with no neighbours and lots of orange cats, and all I did was paint. But the reality for me, I would never be able to sit still or actually concentrate on one thing. So,
So is it about expressing things that you've got in your mind, things you're thinking about?
Yeah, it can definitely, it's a very personal thing for me. So, for example, this painting that I started, it's basically me and my partner kind of sat on thrones, but surrounded with all these beautiful memories and, holidays and beautiful scenes where we've been. But it's really surreal. I like to do quite, they're quite silly pictures, some of them. I did the whole cast of Buffy the Vampire Slayer as Da Vinci's The Last Supper.
Oh, wow.
So some of my painting stuff that isn't, book covers can be quite silly. But the real, when I'm working with other people, the art's about power, okay? So I do actually really, in an ideal world, and if I had more time to actually get these visual images out, it would be about social change. It would be about power. It would be about challenging the power balance. A lot of my work would have its roots. My dad started off, he was working with Patrick Coalfield in Chelsea when pop art was, it was the heyday. So I grew up with a lot of that kind of influence. Richard Hamilton, real social commentary stuff. And actually, as a sociologist, that's what a lot of the creativity in the art reflects for me.
So art or creativity, but with purpose.
Absolutely. And that, again, that transcends over to the work I do with clients. So the vibe that I have when I'm in a creative practice zone with my clients at sea is that you can find power in creativity. This is your voice. And I love to kind of open up that opportunity for them that they wouldn't necessarily get. I've always said that my little art group on a Tuesday, it's not an art group where they get to come and just kind of paint a little landscape, and it's not actually for relaxation. It's to get that voice, it's for power, it's to raise awareness. And now we're kind of, I've pushed for the creative arts delivery at sea, and now I think a lot of people have recognised that our service provides that, especially with collaborations with Asylum, Geese Theatre. We do a lot of work with the group at the Good Shepherd. We obviously had last year's Recovery Walk with Creative Tents. So I think it's really brought about a fantastic creative community in Wolverhampton.
And I think you're really challenging assumptions, both with individuals of what they can achieve, but also with like management commissioners about what I hate the word, but service users can achieve.
And it's about what works as well. They see results. We've just had, so with the Profile Alternative Art School project that we're running with Asylum, so you'll know there's an exhibition for one of our clients, David Johnson, and David he was part of our DayHab, Recovery Near Use DayHab group. And he would come along and his creativity, I usually do a little bit of creative work with the DayHab cohort, because it gives them that kind of, if they haven't ever worked creatively before, it opens up something brand new. And it's a recovery skill. right? So he loved cartoons, and it was a case of kind of just getting him involved with workshops, with animation, and he's really took a shine to it. And the best thing with it was that he had no idea he had produced all of that work until that was curated in the Spotlight Gallery, and he stood there and he looked so proud. And it was a real teary moment.
So I just bring you back to Wolverhampton. So you grew up. You're born and bred in Wolverhampton.
I am indeed. Yeah, Wolverhampton. Have lived all over Wolverhampton. Seen a lot of different sides of Wolverhampton. Grew up in Tetnall. Lovely place to grow up. Moved away. They were quite dark years for me. Moved up to Scotland. Had a breakdown. Came home. Had my wonderful son, and you know, when I lived away, I must have really been so homesick. I moved away, as you do, young, moved away with a boy, things didn't work out, and I've always felt such a belonging, especially as I've gotten older. And I think that there is something in Wolverhampton that is so unique. We do get a lot of stick, don't we?
Yeah.
In this city.
But I want to challenge that.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that, you know what, once you start tapping into this community, especially creatives working in this community, I think that we have something so wonderful here. It's so diverse. It is so unique. And just the fact that you're pulling people together for this podcast and for the project is wonderful. We've got a thriving music scene as well.
Yeah, there is so much going on in the city, and I think the word you use, community, is the key.
Yeah,
it's about the people and people coming together.
Absolutely. I mean, you were probably about for Fringe, Graham, as well, back in November, and gosh, there was so much going on. Couldn't keep up with it. So many venues. And we do things quite, you know, it's got to be DIY.
So, absolutely, and I was just about to ask like how you'd describe Wolverhampton to somebody who hadn't been here, but you kind of said some of it.
I think I've had to do that before. First, I always do give a little giggle, because the thing is, you do see some awful things where there's so much of these YouTube videos now, right, where people visit towns and cities in the UK, and basically their videos are just designed to be horrible about them, aren't they? And you can and you do see some real things in Wolverhampton. But that is something I will say, it is, it's a very real place. It's genuine. It's very supportive. Community does get up and stand up, and we've seen that. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. I may retire a bit up the road, get my little painting studio in the countryside, but I'm not ready to do that yet. I'm very connected to this city. Yeah.
Thank you so much to Christiane for that, and I hope you enjoyed listening to our conversation. Do check out Suit, the service user involvement team, and find out more about the work they do to support people in recovery. I'll put some links in the description below. If you want to support this podcast, take a moment to follow on Spotify, Apple or YouTube, and share with someone else who might like to hear it. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.